The alley of shadows rain fell over the broken city, turning dust into mud in a forgotten corner. Where no one cared to look, two alien girls huddled together in the dark alley of shadows. They had no home, no food, no clothes to keep them warm. Their small bodies shook from the cold wind, their eyes empty. The first girl, older by a few years, wrapped her thin arms around the younger one. She tried to keep her safe, but she had nothing left to give. Hunger had stolen their strength. Fear had stolen their voices, and time had stolen their hope. The younger girl whispered weakly, asking if they would survive another night. The older one pressed her lips together. Because she did not have an answer, people walked by the alley, their boots splashing through puddles. No one looked at the two girls. Some even turned their faces away, as if the sight of them was too heavy to bear. To the world, they were not children. They were only reminders of loss, trouble, and pity. The girls once had a family. But that memory was broken. Their parents had been taken during a raid. Their home destroyed in fire. They had wandered from street to street since then. Each day was the same. Beg for scraps, hide from guards, and pray to survive. The older girl closed her eyes and wished the night would pass faster. She dreamed of a place where warmth still existed, where someone would see them not as burdens, but as children. The younger girl coughed softly, her body weak. Her small hands clung to her sister's arm. She whispered that she was tired, too tired to keep moving. Then footsteps stopped near the alley. A figure stood at the edge, looking into the darkness. It was not another guard, not another cruel stranger. It was a human man. His coat was worn from travel, his face marked by years of hardship, but his eyes were steady. And they carried something the girls had not seen in a long time: kindness. The man knelt slowly so he would not scare them. His voice was calm, gentle. He asked if they were hungry. The older girl pulled her sister closer, suspicion sharp in her eyes. She had seen kindness before, but it always came with a price. Why would a human stop for them when others had ignored them? The man did not move closer. He only placed a piece of bread on the ground and stepped back. The smell reached the girls, making their stomachs twist in pain. The younger girl's eyes widened. She wanted to crawl forward, but the older one shook her head. She feared a trap, feared another cruel hand. Rain dripped down from the broken roof above. The bread sat there, waiting. The man spoke again. His words were simple. "You don't have to fear me." His tone was not commanding. It was soft, almost pleading. The girls looked at each other, torn between hunger and fear. The younger one finally reached out. Her fingers touched the bread. And when nothing bad happened, she pulled it to her chest. She took a small bite, tears filling her eyes. It was the first real food she had tasted in days. The man watched, but he did not smile or gloat. He only nodded, as if this small moment meant everything. He then looked at the older girl and said quietly, "You don't belong in the shadows." The alley was still dark, still cold, but in that moment, something small began to change. For the first time in a long time, the girls felt that maybe, just maybe, someone had seen them not as broken things, but as lives worth saving. The first words: the rain had stopped by morning, but the alley still smelled of damp stone and rotting waste. The two alien girls sat close together, their eyes half closed from exhaustion. The younger one clutched the last crumbs of bread as if they were treasure, while the older one stared at the human man who had not left them through the night. Daniel, that was his name. He had sat quietly near the entrance of the alley. Not too close, not too far. His coat hung heavy with rainwater. But he didn't seem to care. His eyes stayed on the girls, not in pity, but in patience. He waited, as though he understood that trust could not be forced. When the morning light touched the cracked walls, Daniel finally spoke. His voice was steady. "You are not safe here," he said. The older girl tightened her hold on her sister. Her eyes sharp. "Why do you care?" she asked. Her voice was hoarse. Almost broken, Daniel did not answer right away. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small blanket. He placed it gently on the ground between them. "Because no one else will," he said. The younger girl looked at the blanket, her small body shivering. She wanted to reach for it, but she was afraid. The older girl shook her head again, her heart pounding with suspicion too many times. Kindness had been a mask for cruelty. Too many times, promises had ended in pain. Daniel's gaze softened. He did not press them. Instead, he leaned back against the wall and whispered, "You remind me of someone." His words hung in the air, carrying a weight the girls did not understand. Silence stretched, broken only by the sound of water dripping from the rooftops. The younger girl tugged on her sister's arm and whispered, "Maybe he means it." Her voice was fragile, like a bird afraid to fly. The older one looked down at her sister's tired eyes. She wanted to protect her, but she also knew they couldn't survive much longer on the streets. Still, her fear was stronger than her hope. "If we go with him," she whispered back, "what if he hurts us too?" Daniel lowered his head as if he had heard the whisper. His voice came quietly. "I won't hurt you." The words were simple, almost too simple. But something in his tone was different from all the voices they had heard before. It was not the sound of command, not the sound of pity. It was the sound of truth. The younger girl's small hand reached out. Touching the edge of the blanket, she pulled it close. Wrapping it around her shoulders, warmth spread through her. And for the first time in many nights, she felt safe. Daniel watched, but did not move closer. He respected their fear. He only said, "You both deserve more than this, Allie." The older girl studied him, her heart torn between mistrust and a faint spark of something she thought she had lost hope. She wanted to speak, but the words caught in her throat. Finally, she forced them out. "Why?" she asked. "Why us?" Daniel's eyes met hers. His answer was quiet, but it carried strength, because someone has to. The words struck her, not like a demand, but like a promise. In that moment, the silence of the alley changed. It no longer felt like a place of death. It felt like the beginning of something neither of the girls could name. The younger one leaned against her sister, clutching the blanket and whispering with a trembling smile, "He gave us food. He gave us warmth." The older girl looked back at Daniel, suspicion still in her eyes. But her voice was softer when she spoke again. "What do you want from us?" Daniel shook his head slowly. "Nothing," he said. "Only that you live." The first words between them were heavy with mistrust, but they carried a spark strong enough to begin breaking the walls around two broken hearts. Asterisk. The shelter's door night returned quickly in the broken city. The sky was heavy with clouds, and the streets glowed faintly under weak lamps. Daniel walked slowly, his steps careful, behind him. The two alien girls followed, one clutching the blanket close, the other holding her hand tightly. Their bare feet touched the wet ground. But they did not complain. They were too afraid, too uncertain. Every corner of the street made the older girl flinch. She remembered the guards, the merchants who shouted at them, the strangers who pushed them aside. Was this human truly leading them to safety, or to another trap? She looked at her sister, who stared at Daniel with wide eyes filled with cautious trust. That trust frightened her more than the darkness. Daniel led them through narrow paths until they reached a small building hidden between larger, ruined structures. It was old, but not broken. A wooden door stood at the front, scratched and worn. Daniel stopped and placed his hand on the door. His voice was steady. "This is my place." The girls froze at the threshold. The older one pulled her sister back. Her heart raced. For her, doors meant cages. Rooms meant chains. She whispered, Don't go in." Her voice shook. Daniel turned and looked at them. He saw the fear in their eyes. He did not force them. Instead, he knelt down at the door. "Inside, it's warm," he said softly. "No one will hurt you there." The younger girl tugged at her sister's hand. Her small voice trembled. "Please." Just for one night, she was tired, her body weak. The blanket helped. But her bones ached from sleeping on stone. The older girl's mind fought a war. One side screamed not to trust. The other side whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was different. Daniel stood up and opened the door slowly. A faint golden light spilled into the street, and with it came the smell of bread. Not fresh, but real. The girls' stomachs twisted. They had survived too many nights with nothing but rainwater. The younger one stepped forward, but the older one pulled her back sharply. Daniel raised a hand, not in anger, but to pause them. "I know," he said quietly. "Doors can feel like traps." His eyes softened. "But this one is not." The words sank deep into the older girl's heart. She stared at him, searching for a lie, searching for the cruelty she expected. But all she saw was a tired man with honest eyes. Daniel stepped inside first. He placed his bag down, lit another small lamp, and then walked away from the door. He left the space open, showing them that they were free to choose. He did not chase, he did not command. The younger girl took a shaky step forward, pulling at her sister's arm. Her eyes shone with hunger, with longing for warmth. "Just once," she whispered. "Let's see." The older girl's breath caught. Her heart beat painfully. Finally, with trembling hands, she guided her sister toward the doorway. They stood there, half inside, half outside. The air inside was warmer, softer, carrying the faint smell of wood smoke. Daniel said nothing. He only nodded once, as though their small step was the greatest decision in the world. The girls entered slowly. Their bare feet touched the old floorboards. The younger one let out a tiny sigh, her body relaxing for the first time in many days. The older one looked around the room, her eyes stayed sharp, ready to run if needed, but nothing came. No chains, no angry voices, no hands reaching to drag them away. Only the warmth of the lamp and the quiet presence of the human. For the first time, the door before them was not a prison. It was a doorway to something unfamiliar, something fragile, something that felt almost like hope. Asterisk warmth and fear inside the shelter. The air was warm. A small fire crackled in the corner. Filling the room with gentle light, the two alien girls stood close together, their eyes scanning every corner, their bodies relaxed slightly, but their hearts stayed tight with fear. Daniel moved slowly, careful not to startle them. He took an old pot from a shelf and placed it over the fire. The sound of water boiling soon filled the room. The smell of dried herbs rose with the steam. The younger girl's nose twitched, and her stomach growled softly. She quickly pressed her hands to her belly. Ashamed of the sound, Daniel pretended not to notice. Instead, he stirred the pot, his voice calm. "It isn't much, but it's hot." He poured the soup into 2 chipped bowls and placed them on the table. Then he stepped back, giving them space. The older girl frowned. She had seen food offered before, only to be snatched away the moment she reached for it. She whispered to her sister, "Don't trust it," but her sister's eyes were fixed on the bowl. Her lips trembled. "It smells good," she whispered back. The younger girl took a tiny step forward, then stopped, looking back at her sister for permission. Daniel noticed. His voice was gentle. "Eat. It's yours." He pushed the bowl a little closer to the edge of the table. The older girl finally let her sister move. The younger one picked up the bowl carefully, her hands shaking. She took a sip. The warmth spread through her thin body. Tears welled in her eyes. "It's warm," she whispered, The word felt strange on her tongue. Daniel gave a small nod. His eyes softened. He turned his attention back to the fire, letting them eat without pressure. The older girl finally joined her sister. Though her movements were stiff, she took a sip. Expecting poison, expecting pain. But there was nothing, only warmth for a brief moment. Both girls forgot the alley, forgot the cold rain, forgot the fear. They only knew the taste of soup and the feeling of heat inside their stomachs. But fear was never far away. The older girl's mind whispered doubts. Why was this man feeding them? Why was he giving them a place to rest? What did he truly want? She put down her bowl and stared at him sharply. What are you going to do with us? Daniel turned his head slowly. His eyes met hers. His voice was calm, steady. Nothing, he said. You're children. And you deserve to live. The words made her chest tighten. She wanted to believe them, but belief was dangerous. Belief had broken her before. She clenched her fists. People don't give without taking, she muttered. Daniel didn't argue. He only leaned back against the wall. His face tired. His silence was not heavy. Not threatening. It was the silence of someone who understood pain. Someone who carried his own scars. The younger girl finished her soup and curled into the blanket Daniel had given them. Her eyelids dropped, her small body finally giving in to sleep. She rested against her sister's side. Her breathing slow and steady, the older girl kept her eyes on Daniel. She fought the weight of sleep. Her body begged for rest. But her mind would not surrender. Finally, in a whisper, she asked, "Why us?" Daniel's gaze flickered to the sleeping child, then back to her. His answer was simple. Because I couldn't walk away. The older girl stared at him. Her heart trembled. Something inside her cracked. Not broken, but softened. She held her sister close. Her eyes still sharp with suspicion. But her voice no longer carried only fear in that small room. With soup bowls still warm and the fire still glowing. The girls felt both things at once, warmth and fear. One pulled them forward, the other held them back. And in between stood the human, patient as the night stretched on. Asterisk. The broken past, the fire burned low. Casting soft shadows on the wooden walls, the younger girl slept peacefully. Her small frame wrapped in the blanket, but the older one stayed awake. Her eyes never left Daniel, her body still stiff. Ready to grab her sister and run if danger appeared, Daniel noticed but did not press her. Instead, he sat on the floor near the fire, his hands resting on his knees. He seemed tired, but not dangerous. His voice came softly, almost like he was speaking to the flames. "I don't need to know your names tonight," he said. "But I can listen if you want to tell me." The older girl said nothing. Silence wrapped around them like a second blanket. She lowered her gaze to the floorboards. Her mind battled between fear and the strange comfort of warmth and food. Minutes passed before her lips parted. The words escaped like they had been trapped for too long. "We had a home once," she whispered. Her voice was rough. She did not look at Daniel, only at her sleeping sister. "Our father was strong. Our mother was kind. They protected us." Her throat tightened. Memories rose like smoke, choking her. Then came the fire. She said, "Ships from the sky, soldiers in armor." They called it cleansing, but it was killing. They took every one, our parents, our neighbors. Everyone. Her hands trembled as she pulled the blanket tighter around her sister. Daniel's jaw clenched. He did not interrupt. His eyes stayed fixed on the flames, as though he could carry their pain without breaking the fragile trust forming in the room. The girl continued. "We ran, we hid in ruins. In markets, in alleys, guards would chase us. Merchants would throw stones. No one wanted us. We were nothing but dirt under their boots." Her voice cracked. "But she forced herself to go on. Every time I thought we found safety. Someone tried to sell us or use us or throw us out. She turned her eyes sharply toward Daniel. Her tone was bitter. That's why I don't believe you. Humans are no different from the others. Everyone wants something. Daniel's face stayed calm, but his hands curled into fists for a moment before he spoke. His voice was steady. You're right, he said. Many are cruel. Many are selfish. He lifted his head and looked at her. His gaze clear, but not all. The words hung in the air. She searched his face, looking for the lies she had learned to expect. But she found none, only a man who seemed as broken as they were. The younger girl stirred in her sleep. She mumbled a word, maybe the name of their mother, and then drifted back into dreams. The older girl's eyes softened for a moment. Her heart ached with the weight of everything they had lost. Daniel finally spoke again, his voice low. I lost people too. His eyes dimmed. War took them. He did not explain further. But his silence carried pain, a pain she could recognize. The older girl's suspicion did not vanish, but something inside her shifted for the first time. She saw him not only as a stranger, but as someone who understood loss. She whispered, almost to herself, we were left behind because we were worthless. Daniel leaned forward, his voice firm now. You are not worthless. His words carried weight. Anyone who told you that was wrong? The older girl froze. Her heart pounded. No one had ever said that to her before. The room felt heavier, yet safer, as though the broken past she carried had finally been spoken aloud and shared. The fire cracked softly. The night stretched on. And in the warmth of the shelter, the broken past of two alien girls began to mend. Not with promises, but with the simple act of being heard. The first smile morning light crept through the cracks in the wooden walls. The shelter smelled faintly of smoke and herbs. The younger girl stirred first, blinking as warmth wrapped her body instead of cold stone. For a moment, she forgot she was supposed to be afraid. She stretched slowly, then clung to the blanket with a small sigh. Daniel was already awake, sitting by the fire. His rough hands worked carefully on a broken wooden toy. It was a small carving of an animal, its legs cracked and one ear missing. He held a small knife and sanded the edges gently. As though the broken thing still deserved care, the younger girl sat up, her eyes wide. She whispered to her sister, "What is he doing?" The older girl, still half asleep, frowned and whispered back, "Probably wasting time." But curiosity pulled her eyes toward him too. Daniel glanced at them and gave a faint nod. He didn't force a smile, but his voice carried warmth. "This was left behind in the market," he said softly. "Thought I could fix it." His hands continued to shape the wood until it looked whole again. He set it gently on the table, then stepped away. The younger girl crawled closer. Her small fingers touched the toy as if it might vanish. When she held it in her hands, a memory returned. Her mother once gave her a doll, and she had hugged it until the fire took everything. Tears formed in her eyes, but this time they were mixed with something else. Daniel watched quietly. He said nothing, letting the silence carry meaning. The younger girl hugged the toy to her chest, then looked up at him. Her lips trembled. And then it happened. A small, fragile smile appeared. It was not wide, not strong, but it was real. The first smile she had shown in years. The older girl froze. Shock rushed through her chest. She whispered sharply, "Don't," as if smiling was dangerous. As if happiness would be stolen the moment it appeared. But her sister couldn't stop. Her smile grew, weak but steady. Daniel's face softened. He didn't smile back. But his eyes carried relief. He simply nodded, as though he had been waiting for that single moment. The older girl's heart fought itself. She wanted to drag her sister back into fear. But a small part of her longed for the same warmth. The sight of her sister smiling made her chest ache in ways she didn't understand. Then, a sound outside broke the quiet. Footsteps in the street, voices whispering. The older girl stiffened, rushing to the window. Her eyes widened when she saw two men walking past, glancing suspiciously at the shelter. Her voice dropped into panic. "They're watching," she hissed. Daniel stood and moved to the door. He looked outside calmly. His voice remained steady. "People always whisper," he said. "They don't like when someone helps those they call worthless." The younger girl clutched the toy tightly, fear returning to her eyes. The older girl pulled her sister close, her voice sharp. "We should run." Daniel shook his head, his tone firm but calm. "Running won't change what they see." He looked at them both, his eyes steady. "But you don't have to be afraid in here." The older girl's lips pressed tight. She didn't believe safety could last. But when she looked at her sister smiling weakly, despite the fear, something inside her wavered. The toy in her sister's hand was small, simple, almost worthless to anyone else. Yet it had brought a piece of light back into their broken world. That morning, in a shelter that smelled of firewood and soup, a fragile smile was born. It was small enough to be ignored by the world outside, but strong enough to begin healing to shattered hearts. The knock at midnight. The night was quiet. Too quiet, the shelter's fire had burned low, casting only faint light across the wooden floor. The two alien girls slept close together, one still holding the toy Daniel had fixed. The older girl's breathing was uneven, as though even in sleep she expected danger. Daniel sat near the door, his back against the wall. His eyes stayed open. He was tired, but rest never came easy. Years of war and loss had trained him to listen for danger, and tonight the silence felt heavy. Then came the sound, a sharp knock on the wooden door. 3 strikes that echoed through the room. The younger girl jerked awake, her toy clattering to the floor. The older girl sat up quickly, fear flashing in her eyes. She whispered, "They found us." Daniel raised his hand, signaling them to stay quiet. He stood and moved to the door with calm steps. Another knock came, louder this time, followed by a voice, "Open up." Human, the tone was harsh, commanding. It was the voice of authority. Daniel opened the door a crack. Outside stood 2 guards in dark uniforms, their weapons glinting under the moonlight. Their eyes swept past Daniel into the shelter, catching sight of the frightened girls huddled near the fire. One of the guards sneered, "We heard rumors." "You're hiding strays." Daniel's voice was calm but steady. "They're children," he said. "Leave them be." The guard laughed coldly. "Children? Vermin? Doesn't matter. They're not allowed to live here." He pushed at the door. Trying to step inside, the younger girl whimpered, clinging to her sister. The older girl's face hardened. She whispered, "I told you this would happen." Her heart pounded. Certain this was the end, Daniel blocked the doorway with his body. His voice grew firm. "They stay." The words were simple, but they carried weight. The second guard narrowed his eyes. "Are you defying the order of the city?" His hand gripped his weapon tightly. The air grew tense. Daniel didn't move. His shadow filled the doorway. His voice dropped low. "I am." The guards exchanged glances. One of them smirked. "You'll regret this." "Human," he hissed. "No one defies the law and keeps their head." With that, they stepped back into the street, their boots echoing on the wet stone. Their voices carried as they walked away. "We'll return, and next time, we won't knock." Daniel closed the door quietly. He turned and saw the 2 girls trembling near the fire. The younger one's eyes filled with tears. "They'll take us," she whispered. Her voice broke. "They always take us." Daniel knelt down beside them, his face calm, but his eyes burning with quiet fire. "No," he said. "Not while I'm here." The older girl's voice shook with anger and fear. You don't understand. They have power. They have soldiers. You can't stop them." Daniel looked at her, his jaw tight, his voice steady. "Maybe I can't stop the world," he said. "But I can stand between it and you." The room fell into silence again. The fire flickered, shadows dancing across the walls. The girls clung to each other, torn between fear and the strange. Dangerous hope this human gave them. Outside, the city was restless. Whispers of rebellion and cruelty spread like smoke, but inside the shelter, a line had been drawn for the first time. Someone had chosen them not for gain, not for use, but to protect. And though fear still clung to their hearts, a new question echoed louder. What would this human risk for them when the guards returned? The humans stand the city did not sleep. Even at night, voices carried through the streets. Whispers of trade, orders, and cruelty. But inside the shelter, silence weighed heavy. The girls sat close together, their faces pale with fear. Their eyes kept darting toward the door, as if expecting it to burst open. Daniel stayed near the fire, sharpening a dull blade with steady strokes. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a storm. The younger girl finally whispered, "They will come back." Her voice cracked. "They always come back." Daniel lifted his gaze. His voice was firm. "Then I'll be ready." The older girl shook her head, her tone sharp with fear. "You don't understand. They're guards, they have soldiers, you're only one man." She hugged her sister tightly, as if preparing for the moment they'd be dragged away. Daniel's jaw tightened, his hands gripped the blade. He thought of the faces he had lost in wars long past. He thought of the promises he could never keep. This time, he swore to himself it would be different. Hours passed, and just as the girls began to close their eyes, the sound of boots echoed outside. The knock did not come this time. The door shook as fists pounded against it. "Open, human," the guard's voice roared. "By order of the city, surrender the strays." The younger girl whimpered. The older one whispered, "We have to run," but Daniel stood and stepped to the door. His hand rested on the wood, his voice carried like steel. "You will not take them." The door swung open. Guards pushed inside. Their armor glinted under the firelight. Weapons raised, they sneered at Daniel. "You protect them. You'll pay with your life." Daniel did not step back. He stood like a wall before the girls. His voice rose, calm yet powerful. "They are children," he said. "If you want them, you'll have to go through me." The guards laughed. "One man against the law. One spat, you'll die for this." They lunged forward. Daniel's blade flashed, not wild, not reckless, but with the precision of someone who had fought before. The first guard stumbled back, weapon knocked aside. The second froze. Realizing this was no ordinary man, the girls clung to each other, terror and awe mixing in their eyes. They had seen people fight before, but never for them. Never with such strength born from something deeper than survival. Daniel's voice rang through the room. "I will not hand them over." He pushed the guards back toward the door, his movements firm, controlled. His stance unshaken. The guards hesitated. Their arrogance cracked. "You'll regret this, human," one hissed. Clutching his bruised arm, "The city won't forgive defiance." Daniel stepped closer, forcing them out into the night. His eyes burned with quiet rage. "Then let the city know," he said. "These girls are under my protection." The door slammed shut behind them. Silence fell heavy. The fire flickered against Daniel's face. His breath steady, the girls stared at him, their hearts pounding. The younger girl whispered first, her voice trembling, "Why? Why would you fight for us?" Daniel turned. His eyes softened as he looked at them. "Because no one else will," he said. His words carried no hesitation. The older girl's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to say it was foolish. But the truth burned to clear in front of her eyes. For the first time, someone had stood, not for power, not for gain, but for them. Fear still lingered. The guards would return with more, stronger, crueler. Yet something had changed forever in that small shelter. A human had made a stand, and with it, the girls saw a glimpse of something they thought was gonna hope that someone could fight for them and win. Asterisk. The flight for freedom the night did not return to peace. Outside, the city stirred with anger. The guards who had been pushed away spread their words quickly, and soon whispers became shouts. Daniel knew they would return, not with 2 men, but with a squad, maybe more, inside the shelter. The girls sat by the fire, their faces pale. The younger one clutched the toy to her chest, her eyes wide with fear. The older girl's hands trembled, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "We can't stay. If we do, they'll take us, and they'll kill you." Daniel tightened the strap of his pack, his voice calm. "Then we don't stay." He moved quickly, gathering food, a water flask, and the blanket. His every motion carried purpose. He had fled before, but this time was different. He was not running for himself, but for 2 fragile lives who had been abandoned by the world. The younger girl's lips trembled. "Where will we go?" she asked, her voice tiny, like a whisper lost in the storm. Daniel met her gaze, his words firm. "Somewhere safe." He did not say more, but the certainty in his tone made her believe. The door creaked as Daniel opened it. The cold night air rushed in. Carrying the sounds of boots in the distance, the older girl's heart raced. "They're coming," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "Then we move now." They slipped into the shadows of the street, Daniel leading the way. The girls followed closely, their bare feet silent against the wet stone. The city was alive with danger. Torches burned on corners. Patrols marched in tight lines, voices shouted orders. Daniel guided them through narrow alleys, cutting through broken buildings. His memory of the city streets was sharp. Every turn was chosen with care. Behind them, the sound of boots grew louder. The guards were hunting. The younger girl stumbled, but Daniel caught her arm, his voice low. "Stay close. Don't look back." The older girl pulled her sister tighter, whispering just a little more, though her legs felt ready to collapse. They reached the edge of the market, where empty stalls stood silent under the moon. Daniel crouched low, his eyes scanning the shadows. Torches glowed on the other side, guards searching. One shouted. They went this way. The girls froze in terror. Daniel's voice was calm. This way, he led them behind the stalls, weaving between crates and barrels. The girls followed, their breaths sharp. The noise of pursuit grew closer, boots striking stone, weapons clanging. At the far end of the market stood an old drainage tunnel, half hidden by weeds and broken stone. Daniel pushed aside the cover, revealing the dark passage. The smell of damp earth rose. Inside, he ordered. The girls hesitated, fear in their eyes. "It's safe," Daniel pressed. "Go." The younger girl crawled in first. Clutching the toy, the older one followed. Pushing her sister forward, Daniel entered last. Pulling the cover back over the tunnel, darkness surrounded them. Only the faint sound of dripping water guiding their way. The guards reached the market moments later. Their torches lit the stalls, their voices sharp with anger. "Find them," they shouted, but the tunnel stayed hidden, their search blind to the escape under their feet. Inside the tunnel, the girls crawled slowly, their bodies shaking but their hearts beating with new strength. Daniel's voice echoed softly behind them. "Keep moving. You're doing well." When they finally emerged beyond the city walls, the night opened wide. The stars spread across the sky, free and endless. The girls stared in awe, their fear mixed with wonder for the first time. They were outside the cage of stone and laws. Daniel stood beside them, his breath heavy but steady. He looked at the open land, then at the girls. His voice carried quiet determination. "We're not done, but tonight, you are free." The girls clung to him, their hearts still pounding. Their journey was not over. Danger still hunted them. Yet in that moment, under the vast sky, they felt something powerful. The first taste of freedom, both of you. Come home. The night air was cold, but it carried freedom. Beyond the city walls stretched open land, fields covered in silver moonlight. The two alien girls stood in silence, holding each other tightly. Their thin frames shook with exhaustion, yet their eyes widened with wonder. They had never seen the world beyond the walls. Daniel watched them quietly. His body ached from the escape, but he carried himself with steady strength. He had seen many skies before, but this one felt different. It was not just his freedom anymore, it was theirs too. The younger girl clutched the toy in her hands. She whispered softly, "Is this real?" Her voice trembled, afraid that the stars above were only another cruel trick. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice firm but gentle. "Yes, it's real." The older girl looked at him, her suspicions still alive, but weaker now. "What happens next?" she asked. Her tone carried both fear and a faint trace of hope. Daniel glanced at the horizon, his eyes steady. "We find a place," he said. A home. The word felt strange to them. Home had been fire, loss, and cages. Yet when he said it, the word carried promise, not pain. They began walking through the fields, Daniel leading, the girls close behind. Each step was heavy, but it carried them further from chains. The younger girl asked quietly, "Why us?" "You could have left." Daniel slowed. Looking back at them, his answer came with no hesitation. "Because you are worth saving." The older girl froze. Her chest tightened. No one had ever said those words. Not once. She wanted to deny them, to say it was a lie. But when she looked at her sister's small smile, she could not speak. Hours passed, and the first light of dawn painted the sky with gold. The fields stretched into hills, and beyond lay a small valley. Daniel pointed toward it. "There," he said. "We'll rest there." They reached an abandoned farmhouse, its roof cracked, its walls old but still standing. Daniel pushed open the door, dust rising from the wooden floor. Inside, it smelled of earth and age. But it was safe. The girls stepped in slowly, their eyes scanning. Daniel set his pack down. He placed the blanket on the floor, then sat against the wall. The girls stood uncertain, not sure if they were allowed to stay. Daniel's voice broke the silence, firm and clear. "Both of you. Come home." The words hit like a wave. The younger girl's eyes filled with tears. She dropped the toy and rushed forward, wrapping her arms around Daniel's chest. The older girl hesitated, her body trembling. Then slowly, step by step, she too moved forward. She sank to her knees beside them, her hands shaking as she clutched her sister and finally let her guard fall, for the first time in years. They wept without shame. The walls of fear cracked, replaced by something they thought was gone, forever belonging. Daniel wrapped his arms around them both, his voice low, steady. "You don't have to run anymore. You don't have to hide. This is your home now." The farmhouse was small, the valley forgotten, but within its walls, a promise had been made. Two alien girls who had no home, no clothes, no hope, now had something greater than survival. They had family, and as the sun rose higher, spilling light across the valley, the world no longer seemed so cruel. For the first time, they believed that tomorrow could be different, because a human had spoken the words that no one else ever would. "Both of you, Come home, asterisk.